Hi, it's Jan Beta, and we are going to take another look at my Amiga 600 today, which we are going to upgrade to Amiga OS 3.2.3. This is 3.2, which it already runs. But we're going to make a new ROM, and we're going to upgrade to a larger SD card and upgrade the operating system on the card as well. And if everything goes according to plan, we are going to put a Kickstart switch in there, which I already have, but that needs some attention. So lots to do. My Amiga 600 runs quite well, even though it has a Furia accelerator card in there. Already opened the case. It has a Furia which is kind of infamous for not working really well, not being quite compatible, crashing a lot, mostly because it just sits on the CPU with a socket here that is a PLCC socket. The CPU chip is one of these. I'm not going to take this out because this has been working for quite a while now, so I think it sits on here quite right. And yeah, there's a lot of problems with these cards, but I didn't have any basically. I think the problems are mostly for older versions of this. I have a revision 3 which seems to do the trick fine. And I also have this SD card in here, which is a very small, I think 256 megabytes card, which is a bit small for my taste. It's plenty for an Amiga, of course, if you use it the old school way, but these days I want to have a lot of games on there and things like that. And yeah, I didn't put a CF card in here, which allegedly works more reliably than the SD card solution, because this fits quite well with an angle adapter from Restport and just a generic SD to IDE adapter here. This has been working quite well. Sometimes it didn't start up correctly, but that might just be because I'm using this very old SD card in here. We are going to upgrade the Kickstart. I have this kind of shoddy looking Kickstart switcher that this originally came with. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to fit this in here because my Furia is kind of in the way there. Yeah, quite a bit actually. So yeah, we're going to have to see how this and if this is going to be possible, but at least I want to put a Kickstart 3.2.3 ROM in there, and we're also going to do a fresh installation of Amiga OS 3.2 on a new SD card actually. I already copied the contents of this SD card to a CF card with a PC MCIA adapter that I have for that, so I have a full backup of what's on here, and also the contents are still going to be on the SD card. So double backup just to be doubly sure. We're going to make a fresh install and then upgrade it to the 3.2.3 version, which is the actual most recent version of the new Kickstart and Amiga OS. Yeah, that's the plan for today. First step is going to be making a new EPROM for the Kickstart. This step is not strictly necessary actually, because Workbench 3.2.3 is going to work with Kickstart 3.2, with a physical Kickstart 3.2 ROM in here. It's just going to put the newer Kickstart version into RAM actually and use that. So it is going to reset each time it starts up and put the new Kickstart into the RAM to read it from there. We don't want that. We want a physical Kickstart 3.2.3, which has some error fixes and stuff like that, and is also going to not reset if we start our Amiga, which I doubt would work with the Furia. It probably would act up in some way. So yeah, I have an EPROM programmer. I also have some of these 27C400 EPROMs that are blank. We can just use the file that you get if you bought this physically or as a download, Amiga OS 3.2. You have a login for Hyperion's website and you can download the upgrades for this system. There's been several 3.2.1, 3.2.2 and 3.2.3, which is the most recent version, which we are going to upgrade to. And if you download these files, it's a zip file, I believe, you get the update for the operating system, and you also get a binary file to burn on an EPROM and a ROM file to use in an emulator for the most recent Kickstart ROM version. It's all getting a bit complicated already. Let's just burn the Kickstart 3.2.3 binary file to an EPROM. That's easy if you have the gear for that. So got my TL866 EPROM programmer out here. I have the necessary files on a USB stick. Yeah, we have our binary file here. That's Kick232 for CD-TV, A500, A600, A2000. That's all the same file, all the same ROM. And we're going to put that on our desktop and connect our EPROM programmer. And yeah, I'm going to talk about the EPROM type and the way we're going to do this in a second. So this is our AMD AM27C400. Should be blank. I have a TL866 EPROM programmer, which is this specimen here. And these fit physically, but you can't program them out of the box with these. So you need an adapter to go on there to be able to program these. These come in all kinds of different shapes and just circuit boards with a simple socket. This one has a pretty nice zero insertion force socket here. Yeah, we can use this to program these if we use some different settings in our software. And this only works with these adapters actually, so yeah. If you don't have one of these, you can't program 27C400 chips with these EPROM programmers. There's of course other models that can program these chips. We are going to use the adapter though, and the TL866, which works really well for what I'm doing with this. And you have to make sure that the settings are alright in your EPROM programmer software, which I'm going to start up now and I'm going to show you. So here's my programmer software, and we have to choose the EPROM type. In this case, we need to use a 27C4096. We can use the same brand that we have here, which is AMD, and this is a DIP40 chip as well. We're going to select that. And the other thing we have to do is to remove the check ID, and we have to set the programming voltage to 12.5 volts for these specific AMD chips. I don't want a Java update now. And then we should be able to open up our file from the desktop. There we are, Kick323. Open. And that should be a normal binary. You can just open that and you can read the stuff here. Should be able to just program that on our chip, on our EPROM. Let's see if I did everything correctly. I think I should have. Let's see. It seems to be programming. That's a good start. Let's see if it passes. Okay, it's verifying. This looks very promising. Yay! I think we successfully programmed the EPROM. And by the way, you don't have to worry too much about these UV erase windows here. It takes ages to erase them in direct sunlight, several days usually. And if we're just using them here in this controlled environment, we're not going to be too worried about. I'm going to put a sticker on there as soon as I have verified that this is actually working. So that is the next step. So let's see if the EPROM actually works in my Amiga. We're going to remove this one. There we go. And then we're going to put this one in the same orientation. And you always want to make sure in these Amiga models that have the 42-pin sockets, actually, you're going to have 40-pin chips in there mostly. And you want to align them in a way so that they are here with their end, and pin 1 is one pin in. So these two remain open. That's the way to insert these. Same for the Amiga 1200, that also has 42 pin sockets, I believe. So this is the correct way to insert these. I'm going to remove the old SD card here because we want to see the startup screen, basically. So fingers crossed this just worked. I hope so. Let's power it up. Don't have the LEDs connected, but we hopefully should see the startup screen. There we are. 47115. That is our 3.2.3. Copyright 2025. It is a very recent Kickstart. I think it came out in May or something. There we are. Our Kickstart ROM that we just made works. So I'm going to put a label on it that doubles as a cover for the UV erased window there. And we're going to go on with the software installation, I guess. Kick 3.2.3 A600. Let's see. Yep, that looks good. So let's do the software stuff. We are going to have to put a new SD card in there first.
2,000 years later.
It's a few days later, and I shot a lot of footage that didn't work out because my SD card solution that I wanted to use in my A600 doesn't seem to work anymore. So this thing, I think this adapter is what broke. An SD card to IDE adapter. I tried multiple SD cards and all kinds of things, and none of them worked. So I went on and put this adapter in my A1200, and it did the exact same thing. Didn't format the SD card correctly, no matter which Kickstart version I tried. So I came to the conclusion that this adapter is broken, and I bought a new one, which was kind of a problem because there's not many adapters that work with the Fourier card in there and the other expansions that I have in the A600. So I settled for this one, which is kind of an angled one. You're going to see a better shot of this in a second. That I got from Sordan, IE. I'm not sure if this is the best quality, but it was the first one I could find. I later found a way better one that is actually buffered and things like that from iComp. So I'm going to link both of these in the video description. And I think both of these should fit Amiga 600s with all kinds of expansions just fine. But I settled for this one, and I'm going to use a CF card because my experience so far with SD cards has been not so great. And I've used CF cards in some of my Amigas for years without any issues. So I'm using a CF card, and we're going to prepare it and try to finally install OS 3.2.3 on it. So first step, we're going to prepare the CF card. So I'm using a SanDisk 8GB compact flash here. Not sure if this is the perfect fit, but I have one in one of my Amiga 1200s and it worked fine, so I thought this would be a good match. And 8GB is more than enough for my A600, I think. So put it in my card reader, hooked it up to my laptop here, which is running the obsolete Windows 10 at this point. And we're going to erase the partition table on it. I'm going to show you how that works. Now, this step is not strictly necessary on all CF cards or SD cards, but for completeness sake, because sometimes the partition table messes up your Amiga installation. So some of these CF cards are pre-formatted basically for PC stuff, mostly, and sometimes the Amiga side of things doesn't work very well with that. So we're going to clean it completely. We are going to open the command prompt and we're going to start disk part, which is part of Windows still. So disk part comes with your Windows installation normally. I haven't tried this on Windows 11, but I'm pretty sure Microsoft didn't change that part of the system, hopefully. So in disk part, you get the disk part prompt, and we're going to list disk to find out which device our CF card or SD card is. And in this case, it's device 1. This is our 8 gigabytes. You don't want to select your main hard disk, of course. So we are going to enter select disk 1. Now we have disk 1. All the commands we execute in this part are now going to target disk 1. And the command to remove the partition table is just clean. And there we go. Now we can exit this part. And our CF card should be ready to be partitioned and formatted by an actual Amiga. Given that my new CF card adapter works, we're going to find out shortly. Let me get the Amiga out again. So back on the Amiga side of things, and here's my CF adapter that goes in here like so. So yeah, I'm going to put the CF card in here. This doesn't take up a lot of room, so it might just work. Okay, so it sits on top of the PCMCIA slot here basically, and everything should be out of the way. Let's see if I can install on this one. I spent a lot of time trying to install on SD card, and as I said, it didn't work at all. So let's hope for the best. So the Amiga still starts up, thankfully. I have my external GoTag attached here. You can, of course, also do this from real disks, but it's a lot of disks for the newer Amiga OSs. I just put everything on this little USB stick and am going to work from there. Now, the newer Kickstarts boot from external floppies if you insert something there. That's not a problem. You don't even have to do anything. You can go into the startup menu if you want to, but you don't have to on initial startup. It should just boot from the external drive, no problems. Yep. And yeah, I'm going to go through installing Workbench 3.2 and then going to do the update, because that's the way things are supposed to happen. I don't know if they offer 3.2.3 install media. The one I have is the 3.2 CD-ROM. So I just copied the ADF files over from the CD-ROM, and we're going to perform the whole installation process, including partitioning the hard disk, or in this case, the CF card. So there we are, booted into our install 3.2 disk from our external GoTag. And the first thing we want to do is to partition our hard disk using HT Toolbox. This is the step where everything broke down last time around, basically. Let's see. Looking good so far. So we want to select our SCSI device, which isn't a SCSI device at all, but it's handled as such by the system, I think for old time's sake, for backwards compatibility. So we need to change the drive type. This is our old SD card adapter still in here, because I tried that a couple of times. We need to define new and read configuration. Yep, we want to continue. So now it's recognizing our CF card. It's a SanDisk. Even that, yeah, that all looks decent enough. We're going to hit OK and select that one, SanDisk. Hit OK again. And now we can partition the drive. I think I want to make 2 partitions, but I want the first one to be roughly 1 gig. That's our workbench. And we can rename this to DH0, which is more standard for the Amiga. The default is SDH0, which is going to work fine for most stuff, but I like to rename it DH0. You can click on Advanced Options and edit all things. Make sure there's a check mark in bootable, because that's going to be our boot partition. And then we can click on Change and change the max transfer rate. That is not strictly necessary for good CF adapters and probably some better SD adapters, but I'm still going to enter the tried and true value in here that I used for my CF cards. This is not so much about speed, and we have plenty of space. You can also fiddle with the block size. The higher the block size, the lower memory you need in the Amiga to format and handle the drive afterwards. I'm just going to keep it at 512. If you have smaller block sizes, you're going to have a bit more space in general. And I'm just going to use the regular fast file standard file system here. You can use something like PFS3, which is a more advanced file system and also a bit faster. But I'm going old school here, basically, which hopefully is going to make this a stable system in the end. So I'm just going to hit OK. And we're going to do the more or less exactly the same thing with the second partition. I'm going to drag this partition over here and resize it to the whole rest of the disk. We're going to rename it DH1. Going to make this not bootable. I'm going to change the max transfer rate here to 1FE00. Block size I'm going to leave as is, because that's hopefully going to work. We're hopefully going to have enough memory here. I'm just going to hit OK. And then we're going to hit Save Changes to Drive. And then we're going to exit. And hopefully we have our partitions showing here. Uninitialized. Yeah, that's looking quite promising. So we're going to try to format this as workbench. You need to do this before installing. Fast file system, we don't need a trash can. I'm never using that, but that's on you, basically. I'm just going to hit quick format, because that's usually enough. Warning. Format. Format. Let's see if this works. Hey, that's way better than it was. Okay, this one, DH1, we're going to format as well. That's the bigger partition. I'm just going to name that Data. After the android in Star Trek, Next Generation. No trash can, quick format. Format. Let's see if this works. Takes a bit longer, of course, even if it's quick format, because it's 7 gigs. Yay! Look at that, 1 gigabyte free. Okay, I never got this far with the SD card. This is very, very promising. Okay, now for the installation. Let's go back to install. And we're actually going to the install folder. And then I think I want to install the English version on here because English is the language of my videos here. And then we basically just follow the installation instructions, hopefully. And hopefully end up with a working installation of Amiga OS 3.2. This is of course relatively slow because it's also emulating the speed of a real disk drive. This program lets you install release 3.2 of the Amiga operating system on a hard drive and also deploy several associated optionals. Proceed. I want to install release 3.2. Proceed. Yeah, this doesn't matter much. I'm just going to proceed with install. And we want to install it in Workbench. Proceed. Which languages should be installed? I can install Deutsch and English. Maybe I'll do that. Let's try that. Do we want to install glow icons? No, not a big fan of glow icons, especially not on a machine with a 68020 and not that much RAM. New! So now it hopefully is going to go through with the installation. And of course there's ways to do this in an emulator. I've made a video about doing that for my Amiga 1200 ages ago. Also using a CF card in a CF adapter, CF USB adapter on my modern PC. And that works fine too. But I'm doing it old school. So now we need the Amiga Workbench disk, and I'm just changing the disk on my little GoTag here and inserting it virtually. Yeah, this is pretty boring, so I'm probably going to skip this. You just change the disks according to what the prompt is, and it's copying files over to the CF card. And hopefully this is going to work. I'll report back. I'm not going to show you the whole process here because it's pretty dull. So there we go. The installation is now complete. And we are going to do a reboot. Remove disks from all floppy disk drives. So the Amiga should reboot into the Workbench 3.2 install we just did, hopefully. It's doing something on the hard disk, according to the LED. Yay! Okay, it booted our fresh 3.2 install. That's neat. Okay, so this seems to have worked. We're going to do the update to 3.2.3 now, which should be a matter of inserting the appropriate disks. 3.2.3 update, a disk called update 3.2.3 that we're going to insert now. Update 3.2.3. And this should have an install on there. Just going with English again. And this should be more or less the same. This program updates hard drive installations of Amiga operating system 3.2 or 3.2.1 or 3.2.2 to release 3.2.3. Proceed. Proceed. Update, blah, 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 will now be installed. Any previous files will be replaced. Do you want update 3.2.3 installed on the Workbench partition? Yes. And German and English. So this, yeah, as I said, it's pretty much the same. It's just updating everything now. And we have to insert multiple disks when prompted. So I'm not going to bore you with this unless something unexpected happens. But I think it's just going through this and basically another installation process like we've seen before. So I'll report back when this is finished. Okay, I think we're finished. Remove the update and any other disks from floppy drives and select the Proceed gadget to reboot your Amiga. Proceed. Yeah, there we go. Uninstall log file. We have a folder labeled old now. That is good. I'm going to install the drivers for my PC MCAA CF adapter next and then copy my files across. I'm going to do most of the other stuff I wanted to do to the system off camera. I think it's a matter of copying files across and getting everything to work, and that kind of differs from person to person and installation to installation anyway. But we have successfully updated this to 3.2.3, both the hardware and the software now. So I hope this was informative. Maybe this helps you with your installations of the modern Amiga OS. Maybe this was even entertaining to watch. I spent a lot of time with this and lots of footage that is wasted because I tried to install this on an SD card. It worked the first time around, but I think the adapter just broke, or I don't know what happened, but it seems to work better with CF cards, is all I wanted to say. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much for your time. Special thanks to everybody who supports me on Patreon or on Ko-fi or on the YouTube channel memberships page or elsewhere. The links are on my website and in the video description. I'm Jan Beta. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.